in the year of our Lord, 1887. The Indian Ocean roared like a caged animal beneath the ink-black sky. The tempest clawed at the battered Oriental junk, the vessel feeble against the cyclone's wrath. Its bow plunged and surged through walls of water, each impact echoing like cannon fire. The deck was an opera of desperation. Sailors howled commands that the winds devoured, their words lost in the chaos. A rope snapped with a vicious crack, coiling like a viper as it hurled a man into the abyss. His cry vanished into the storm, swallowed whole by the ocean's fury. Above, the great sail strained and rebelled, its bindings fraying one by one. Another rope gave way, and the sound of snapping cords rang out, sharp and merciless, like death's fingers strumming a harp. Below deck, the chaos dulled to a muffled growl. The storm's fury was a distant monster, its rage held at bay by the fragile planks of the hull. A single candle burned in this confined purgatory, its flame a trembling whisper against the damp, shadow-laden air. Two boys, Fitzroy and Garret, sat across from each other at a crude wooden table. The candlelight painted their faces in shades of amber and shadow, chiseling their features like statues trapped between light and dark. Fitzroy's eyes were unyielding, locked on Garret's with a cold intensity that betrayed nothing. The flicker of the candle cast ghostly patterns across his sharp cheekbones, his jaw set like stone. Garret matched the gaze, his expression unreadable, his own face a mask of calm amidst the ship's groaning protests. The candlelight danced between them, a fragile bridge over an unspoken chasm. A quiet understanding of men who knew the odds were stacked against them, each wave above threatening to send them to the depths. The Indian Ocean writhed under an unforgiving sky, black as pitch. The storm didn't just howl, it screamed, a banshee tearing through the night with merciless fury. The Oriental junk fought valiantly, its weathered hull groaning like an old soldier bracing for a war it couldn't win. A scream pierced the chaos, a human scream cutting through the storm like a blade. It filtered down through the wooden planks, reaching the dim, suffocating hull below. Fitzroy heard it, Garret heard it. Neither flinched. We were orphans, a thread that would help bind us together. He had been for years now, so had I. I just didn't know it yet. The walls of the hull were alive, trembling and sweating under the pressure of the sea's assault. A sharp creak rang out, the sound of wood giving up the fight. Water sprayed through the ship's side like blood from a fresh wound, pooling on the uneven floor. The candle on the table between the boys flickered, but held its ground. It burned like the defiance in their eyes, though the shadows it cast told a story of doubt, desperation, and secrets unspoken. Fitzroy and Garret sat rooted, unshaken by the chaos around them. The silence between them was deafening, filled with things they could not or would not say. The storm raged around us, buckling the wooden beams, shredding the linen sails. The ship was going to give, yet somehow we both knew that it would not be our end, not when our destiny was just beginning. The ship groaned, a long, agonized moan, as a towering wave slammed its starboard side. Fitzroy felt the shift before it came, the way a predator senses danger in the dark. The hull tilted violently, and in an instant, the world turned upside down. The boys were thrown from their seats, crashing through the confines of the hull's battered interior. Fitzroy's shoulder struck a beam, pain flaring white-hot for a moment. Garret tumbled beside him. Their eyes met, one last time. It wasn't fear that passed between them in that fleeting moment, but something stronger, a shared understanding, unspoken but absolute. Then the candle's flame flickered, sputtered, and was gone. Darkness swallowed them whole. How I came to be in that ship, a world away from home, cast to an endless sea, is a tale I have pieced together. The darkness was heavy, suffocating, a shroud that erased time and space. Fitzroy's mind clawed through memories, fragments of faces and places long buried. London, the charmed life he once knew. Garret, a boy, a pauper, who silently resisted all, even as the world tried to break him. And now this, a ship on the edge of ruin, a storm tearing through the fabric of their lives. The water surged, icy fingers reaching up to claim them. Fitzroy gasped as the chill cut through him, pulling him back to the present. He kicked, arms thrashing in the black void. Wood splintered and groaned around him, the ship's death throes a haunting melody in the waterlogged darkness. We didn't belong here, not to this ship, not to this storm. But destiny doesn't ask permission. It takes you, bends you, breaks you if it must. And if you survive, you emerge into a different world. The next wave struck like a hammer, the force of it slamming Fitzroy into the wreckage. His breath caught, lungs burning for air as he fought against the sea's pull. Somewhere in the chaos, he thought he heard Garret's voice, a wordless shout swallowed by the storm. He reached out, fingers clawing at the water, at the wreckage, at nothing. And then there was stillness. A quiet that wasn't peace, but absence. Fitzroy floated, suspended between the world above and the abyss below. For a moment, he thought he might let go. Let the sea take him, let the storm have its due. But Providence had other plans. The night air of London reeked of damp cobblestones and a lingering menace that clung to the shadows like an unspoken threat. Lord Bray, resplendent in his evening wear, stepped onto the street with the swagger of a man whose station insulated him from the city's darker truths. Beside him, his companion Anshalt offered a sly remark, and the two laughed as though the world itself were their theatre. The play had ended, and as the two men distanced themselves from the Royal Opera House, its glow and grandeur fading behind them, shadows stirred, plotting, waiting. Behind them, unseen and patient, two figures emerged from the ink-black folds of an alleyway. The ruffians moved with a predator's quiet confidence, their faces obscured by the mottled light of gas lamps. Their prey, unaware, chatting, carefree, walking into the clutches of something far colder than the night. As the gentlemen round the corner, their laughter echoed briefly before it was snuffed out by a sudden presence in their path. The third accomplice stepped into view, the bandana across his face, lending an outlaw's touch to his grim silhouette. A knife gleamed in his hand, catching the lamp's glow with a cruel glint. He didn't speak, didn't need to. The blade whispered for him, its slow, deliberate path across Lord Bray's neck, a promise of something permanent. Bray froze, his breath turning to frost in the air between them. Anshalt stepped back, his face paling under the gaslight. Somewhere in the distance, a woman's scream pierced the night, its sharp edge quickly dulling into unnerving laughter that evaporated into the fog. The city had a way of mocking its inhabitants, of reminding them that beneath its civilized veneer, the streets belonged to the shadows. The ruffian's knife shifted, its point aimed at Bray's top hat, as though it bore some offense. With a casual flick, the blade stabbed clean through the silk topper, twisting slightly before the ruffian pulled it free. A silent trophy in hand, the man stepped back into the mist with his companions, their retreat a ghostly wisp in the lamplight. They were there one moment, and the next, gone, like smoke on a cold wind. For a moment, Lord Bray stood frozen. Then, as though jolted awake, he gave chase, his polished shoes clacking against the uneven stones. "Stop, you cowards! Stop!" His words were swallowed by the fog, mocked by the very air. The ruffians had vanished, the maze of London's alleys swallowing them whole. Out of breath, Bray stumbled to a halt. The night pressed in around him, oppressive in its silence. And his garment, there his was, resting in a puddle upon the cobbles. He stooped, reaching for his discarded hat, its once pristine form now bearing the scars of the encounter. And as his fingers brushed the brim, something fluttered. A small note, creased and damp, tucked into the hat's velvet sash. He snatched it up, his eyes narrowing as he unfolded it beneath the dim glow of the nearest gas lamp. The handwriting was jagged, almost frantic, scrawled across the torn scrap of paper. "The past will not be forgotten, nor forgiven, cease or suffer." The words struck him like the cold edge of the ruffian's blade. Bray's gloved hands tightened, the note crumpling slightly in his grip. A chill ran through him, one that had nothing to do with the London fog. He straightened, slipping the note into his coat pocket, and turned back toward Anshalt, who had now joined him under the street lamp's glow. "Come," Lord Bray said, his voice low, clipped. "This isn't over." As they retreated into the night, the city's fog seemed to close in tighter. as though it too conspired against them. Somewhere, just beyond the veil of mist, the ruffians lingered, their laughter faint, their presence a reminder that London's streets always carried a price for arrogance. The wheels of the carriage rumbled along the gravel drive, their sound muffled by the thick, oppressive night. Bray Manor loomed ahead, its Gothic silhouette framed by a crescent moon that hung low in the sky like a scythe. The estate stood tall and immovable, as though defying time itself. Yet tonight it felt smaller somehow, dwarfed by the weight of its master's troubles. Inside the billiard hall, the air was thick, not with the pleasant aroma of fine brandy or the polish of wood, but with the suffocating tension of a man unraveling. Lord Bray's hands trembled as he poured whiskey into 2 crystal tumblers. The amber liquid splashed onto his knuckles, but he paid it no mind. He shoved one of the glasses toward Anshalt and took the other in a grip that threatened to shatter it. His voice, when it came, was strained, coiled tight like a viper about to strike. "Filth," he spat, the words slicing through the silence. "Human filth. He is a swine of the lowest order." Across the room, Anshalt sat in a casual repose, his tailored evening suit impeccable, his movements deliberate. He accepted the glass without a word and took a long, measured sip before speaking. "Of whom do you speak, old friend? Name the villain who employs those scoundrels." Lord Bray turned sharply, his eyes aflame with a mix of fury and desperation. "I shall not speak his name," he hissed, "but be assured, you know the man well. His rags are the source of his riches." Anshalt raised an eyebrow, his expression calm, almost bemused, as though he were hearing the particulars of a chess match gone awry. "But this degree of treachery," he said, his voice low and steady, "to go so far, to threaten even your child, what does he fear from you?" The question seemed to hang in the air, mingling with the faint clink of a billiard ball as it rolled to a stop on the felted table. Lord Bray stared at the glass in his hand, as though it held the answers he so desperately sought. "I could slay the serpent," he said at last, his voice heavy with conviction. "With a bit more proof, I could topple his empire, light it all aflame and turn it to cinder and ash." Anshalt leaned back slightly, the faintest trace of a smile tugging at his lips. "Have you forgotten?" he began, swirling his whiskey lazily. "That one should never pick fights with men who buy ink by the barrel full." The quip drew a reluctant smile from Lord Bray, but it was short-lived. The weight of the night bore down on him once more as he set his glass on the edge of the billiard table. "Indeed," he said quietly. "But the corruption grows. The papers are filled with lies and illusions, distractions to mask his indiscretions. It will all come to a head. I must challenge him. And my son. He does not deserve to be a pawn for my enemies to maneuver against me." Anshalt's gaze darkened. For a moment he said nothing, his sharp mind turning over the pieces of the game Bray was now destined to see to its finality. Then, with a deft motion, he produced a small leather notebook from his pocket. Its well-worn pages whispered softly as he thumbed through them. Anshalt was like a merchant king, with ships that sailed all 7 seas, from the barren polar wastes to the spiced riches of the tropics. His fingers reached far and touched the unknown. Anshalt paused. His gaze stopped by a particular entry. He looked up, his brow furrowing slightly. "If your problem is keeping young Master Fitzroy safe, do the unexpected. Send him abroad. Send him east." Lord Bray's eyes narrowed. "To Europe? Even the continent would not be far enough." "Beyond," Anshalt said, leaning forward, his voice a low murmur. "Far, far beyond. Send him to be schooled in the new customs of the Orient. Surely even that is beyond your nemesis's reach." The words lingered, sinking into the room like smoke. Lord Bray walked along the billiard table, his movements deliberate. Lining up a shot, the follow-through was not smooth, disrupted by hesitation. The cue ball strikes the edge of the pocket and veered off course. Lord Bray froze, staring at the table with a furrowed brow, his mind racing. Slowly he brought the glass of drink to his lips, and then drained the rest of his whiskey in a single swallow. "Do I play a gentleman's game and lose?" he said bitterly, "because my opponent plays by a different set of rules?" Anshalt tapped his pencil against the open notebook. The rhythmic sound, like the ticking of a clock. The silence grew heavy as Lord Bray poured himself another drink, his movements sluggish, like a man carrying the weight of his own mistakes. Perhaps my father was too cavalier, raising me alone and without an equal to temper his judgment. Lord Bray slumped into a chair, his face etched with exhaustion. Across from him, Anshalt waited, ever patient, the portrait of a man who had played and won many dangerous games. Still, he remained silent, letting Bray wrestle with his decision. I am told he held my mother's hand to the last, the breath of my life given, with the kiss of her death. At last, Lord Bray looked up, his eyes meeting Anshalt's. "Lord have mercy," he whispered, "upon the blackness within men's hearts." So a decision was made. One could argue that it was not a good decision, but it is often the way that bad decisions make good stories. The quiet creak of a door broke the moment, drawing both men's attention. Standing in the doorway was a small boy, his pajamas rumpled, his eyes wide with curiosity and innocence. Young Fitzroy clutched a teddy bear under one arm. A stark contrast to the heavy machinations playing out before him.